They're not a heavy blitz team. They just got really good football players. Obviously, they're dealing with some injuries as well. Two other D linemen that were kind of big sack guys aren't going to be out there. But they do that double barrel. The coaches hammer double barrel and bring in some safety stuff. But it's not an overly complicated where they're just giving you a million different looks. It's just guys being better than the guy across from them.
Hi everybody, I'm Missi Matthews. Happy Week 14. Welcome to the Matchup Show presented by Unibet. Getting ready for a Thursday night matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Minnesota Vikings. You heard Ben Roethlisberger there talking about their defense. To find out what all the action will be about, let's welcome in Matt Williamson from Steelers Nation Radio to help break it down. And I do want to start with the Steelers offense, Matt, and just the fourth quarter performance against the Ravens. How can they build off of this? It's a short week, and knowing what you're going against with this Vikings defense.
Yeah, it's a really interesting matchup because, Minnesota's dealing with a lot of issues on the defensive side of the ball. We just kind of heard Ben talking about how they'd prefer not to blitz and get pressure with four, but their best two edge guys are out. They ask a lot from their linebackers. They want two every down linebackers in Kendricks and Barr, and they ask a lot from them, coverage, or, all different sorts of things. And both those guys missed last week. Their safeties are highly versatile players. Harrison Smith's been one of the best safeties in the league now for the last decade or so. And at corner, they've been going through people left and right, sort of like the D line. So if you watch the Lions tape against the Vikings, one thing that really stood out to me was Detroit doesn't have a lot of talent. I mean, they're a big physical offensive line, and they had a lot of success in the trenches just pushing the Vikes around a little bit of a lighter defensive front. They'd bring in extra offensive linemen, maybe Banner get some snaps as a sixth offensive lineman. But what really stood out to me with those two linebackers out, that they had a lot of success attacking the middle of the field in the passing game and with play action concepts. Those linebackers would bite up heavily, they'd throw it over their head, and it all stemmed from a physical run game. And the Steelers don't attack the middle of the field as much as I would like, or use play action as much as I was like, but we've seen more and more of it, and I think this matchup is perfect for that.
Ben said today, going up tempo, the no huddle, whatever has been working in terms of speeding up the Steelers offense, guys getting more comfortable, especially the young offensive line. How does that work on a short week, especially knowing that you kind of have to stick to what you know? You're not really installing new things this week.
Yeah, I mean, really, away teams basically don't get any practices for these type of games. So I would imagine the game plan is, and having a veteran coach and quarterback goes a long way too, because they've been down this road so many times, that I think you stick with your bread and butter. You don't install a lot of new different concepts. You do a lot of the things that have worked for you over the years that you're most comfortable with this season. And frankly, I don't think it really hurts the no huddle up tempo stuff, because Ben's kind of in control there, and maybe you even see more of it, to be honest with you. Less communication between him and the sidelines, and just kind of go with what's rolling, and he's been around the block.
In terms of the Vikings defense, Patrick Peterson was activated from the COVID reserve list today. But in terms of giving up points in the second half, through their last 6 games, the Vikings have allowed 101 points in the second half alone. How can the Steelers take advantage of some of the good things we saw against the Ravens on this defense in terms of the wide receivers?
Well, Patrick Peterson's a well-known name, and he's had a great career. I think he'll probably end up in the Hall of Fame someday, but he's on the back nine of his career too. I mean, he's not somebody they have to avoid. They've really used 4 or 5 corners all year, kind of searching for answers. They can't ask a lot of those guys, not as much man coverage as they would prefer. Again, I still think the middle of the field's your best bet, but attacking on the outside is absolutely in play as well. Again, play action's a big thing to me. And you mentioned all the points they've let up late in games. I think it's because their defensive depth has been tested so much. I mean, they get worn down throughout the course of the game, and that certainly plays to Najee Harris's strengths.
All right, it is time now to take a look at our Week 14 opening lines across the NFL, presented by Unibet Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're in Pennsylvania and you're ready to place your wagers on any of this weekend's matchups, just download the Unibet PA app, or you can visit pa.unibet.com. All right, we have to talk about Kirk Cousins. He seems to be Mr. Steady, doesn't turn the ball over a lot, Matt. 25 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. What is he doing so well in terms of playing clean football?
Yeah, you're 100% right. And boy, has he drastically changed throughout his career. When he came in the league in those first couple years, he was amongst the all-time leaders in turnovers, really aggressive, and they've reeled him in well. His numbers are excellent. He's probably having his best year as a pro, but he's still, the tape doesn't 100% match up with the numbers. Because he doesn't have a lot of answers when things don't go to script. He's great at running the play, but the later the down goes or when things don't go as it's drawn up, he tends to not be at his best at that point. So pressuring him is a huge, huge key, because his numbers in a clean pocket are far, far better than they are when under pressure. And all quarterbacks are, but his discrepancy is much, much bigger than most. So the way the Steelers are rushing the quarterback now back to leading the league again in sacks, I think that sets up really well for them too. And I mentioned the injuries. The one that people don't really pay attention to is the left tackle, Christian Darrisaw, their first-round pick, who, I looked at from a Steelers lens. You went right before Najee was drafted in the first round. He was out last week. They put a guard at left tackle who really had a tough time. So if Highsmith gets that matchup that he can win one-on-one, it really makes it tough to double Watt then too. So that's something to look for.
All right, Justin Jefferson, I don't think we need to go over his stats, but he had a career day for himself against the Lions. Obviously, Adam Thielen went out early in the game. How do you defend a guy like him, and who on the Steelers can do that?
No one. I really think Jefferson is a very, very special player. If I were starting a team right now with any receiver in the league, and you factor in their age and all that, I would pick Jefferson. His future is unbelievably bright. He attacks at all levels. He's a very unorthodox player. His body type's kind of odd. He's got long limbs. He looks kind of awkward, but he's still fluid, which is a rarity. He explodes out of his breaks. He's got great ball skills. People have been trying to slow him down since he's come in the league, and they haven't had any success. But the Steelers might be fortunate in that Thielen left that game, and I'm guessing at this point, but I would be shocked if he plays. And there's a real drop-off. They've had a pair of receivers now going back to Thielen and Diggs that have been really hard to deal with, but they're not real deep there. They like 2 receiver sets. They don't go 3 and 4 if they can help it. So if it's just Diggs, I would think Minka is going to be leaning his way all day long. Or not Diggs, I'm sorry, Jefferson.
I was going to say, hey, it gets confusing when you're talking about that type of caliber wide receiver. In terms of their running game, short yard situations seem to be an issue for them. The 2-point conversion fails against the Lions. How can the Steelers defensive line, who I think took a really nice step forward against the Ravens, compete against them and maybe continue to grow on Thursday night?
Yeah, and whether it's Cook or Madison, they have good ball carriers that are productive, and they get the bulk of the work if that's the top guy. And their line certainly isn't bad. It's better when Darrisaw is there. But you mentioned the short yardage situation. It's not a real heavy mauling offensive line. They're not going to be great at uprooting the Steelers' front, just to get a single yard. But they run a lot of outside zone that the Steelers have struggled with. We saw the Bengals run it really, really well. And moving laterally, all their linemen can run. You might remember O'Neal, their right tackle, was at Pitt. He was a former tight end, really athletic guy. Their center's really athletic. So they're going to probably try to stretch the Steelers laterally and attack gaps that way. So they're going to have to be on their P's and Q's with that.
All right, it is time now to tell everybody about Pick and Win presented by Unibet. Each week, participants can answer a variety of trivia and predictive questions to earn points. The person with the most points at the end of each week wins a prize, and the grand prize at the end of the season to the top points getter is a trip to the Pro Bowl in Las Vegas. It's free and easy to play. Download the Steelers official mobile app, create a fan profile, and find the Pick and Win banner underneath the Fan Zone section. Matt, really appreciate your time. It is a short week. It's crunch time for us too, but the Steelers leaving on Wednesday to head to Minnesota. Thursday night matchup. We will have a recap for everybody on Friday. Matt, thanks again for joining me, and thanks everybody for tuning in to the Matchup Show presented by Unibet.
What's up, Steelers Nation? It's TJ Watt. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers official YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on everything going on in the Steel City. Thank you for being the best fans in football. Here we go.